Have I ever gambled? No.
You've never gambled?
No. Am I ever likely to gamble? No. Am I going to stop other people from doing what they want to do? No.
Coming up on Politics Now, we sit down with Dr. Ben Carson to talk about gambling, federal lands, and education.
You would encourage Nevadans to vote against medical marijuana?
Absolutely.
And we examine how his answer about Nevada's recreational pot ballot initiative matches up against what other presidential candidates have said on that issue.
From 8 News Now, this is Politics Now with Steve Sebelius and Patrick Walker.
Republican presidential candidate Dr. Ben Carson is polling second in Nevada right now and hoping to make up some ground. Good evening, I'm Patrick Walker.
And I'm Steve Sebelius. We sat down with Dr. Carson during his visit here this week. Here's part one of that interview where we asked him about pot, public lands in federal hands, and immigration reform. Nevada has already legalized medical marijuana. We just had our first medical marijuana dispensaries open. But there is going to be an item on the ballot in 2016 that would legalize recreational marijuana. I'm wondering, first, as a physician, do you think there's therapeutic benefits to marijuana medicinally? And what do you think about legalizing marijuana recreationally?
Well, medical marijuana, when used appropriately, can be very beneficial for a number of conditions, including several neurological conditions, some types of intractable seizures that respond really only to THC. So I have no problem with that when it's done in the appropriate way. I do have a problem with recreational marijuana because studies have shown that it affects the developing brain in a negative way. And the brain continues to develop until the late 20s. It can affect one's IQ. I'm not sure we need more people with affected IQs, to be honest with you.
So you would encourage Nevadans to vote against medical marijuana?
Absolutely.
Or recreational marijuana?
Medical marijuana, no problem. Recreational marijuana, absolutely not.
The industry as it sets right now, obviously with recreational on the ballot and medical already going, part of the problem is the businesses having access to federal resources, banking and such. Do you favor ways to open up or allow marijuana businesses to be able to use banking and other systems?
Not particularly, because it opens things up for a lot of corruption. You know, when you get into drugs and money, bad things seem to happen. People find ways to take advantage and to enrich themselves, and they don't care who is harmed in the process. I probably just wouldn't open that Pandora's box to start with.
So you would leave that up to the states as it is now to try to deal with how to generate the commerce back and forth?
It definitely should not become a federal issue.
Dr. Carson, you got a briefing on public lands issues here in the state of Nevada. As you know, the federal government owns or controls about 86% of the federal land in the state of Nevada. The state has asked through a resolution that it passed through legislation in 2015 to get 7.2 million of those acres back from the federal government so the state can manage it. Do you support that? Would you sign that bill if it came through Congress and you were president?
I would like to see them get back even more land than that, so definitely would sign that. Of course, I want to make sure that the state is working with the BLM and making sure that it's not going to be an excessive burden on the state, you know, in terms of the management and the cost. But assuming that that is not the case, I would be foursquare in favor of that.
Would you worry, as head of the executive branch, if you're elected president, that the state taking over control of that land when you have a wildfire issue, that they would have to rely on the federal government to assist them in fighting those wildfires, and that the federal government would have to bear those costs instead of the state?
It depends on how big the fire is and whether it's, you know, declared, you know, an emergency situation as to who will be responsible for taking care of it. So, you know, of course the federal government is going to help with anything that is considered a national emergency.
Well, Nevada is a state that has a high immigrant population. You've said you have in the past wanted to cut illegal immigration by cutting benefits. What are some of those benefits you would like to cut, and how would you accomplish trying to drop illegal immigration here in the U.S.?
Well, keep in mind, that's only a small part of the plan to stop illegal immigration. The real plan comes in securing the borders. And, we can use Yuma County, Arizona as the example. They put in a double fence barrier with an asphalt road in between for quick access. They put border guards on the border. Imagine that, actually putting border guards on the border. And they prosecuted first-time offenders rather than the catch and release program that we have now. That cut illegal immigration by 97%. And if you did that across all 9 sectors, I'm sure it would have the same effect.
I worked in Yuma County, and that was a big success that they had touted. As far as covering the cost and being able to do that, how do you pay for something like that? Because there was a lot of territory to cover.
I think that becomes a federal burden because it's the federal government's job to protect our borders and protect our citizens. Now, in terms of benefits, I don't believe that anybody who is here illegally is eligible for any benefit, period. And we have to make that fairly ironclad. And then the other thing is you have to recognize that those individuals who are still here, which is going to be about 11.5 million plus, we have to come up with a solution for them that makes sense. And many of them have pristine records. I would give those people the opportunity to get registered. I would give them a window so they can't just extend it out. It has to be that 6-month window. Get registered, assuming that they have a clean record. They can become guest workers. They have to pay a back tax penalty, and they have to pay taxes going forward. But they're above ground now. They're not beneath ground where they can be blackmailed and all kinds of horrible things happen to them. They have to work in an area where we need them, primarily farming and the hospitality industry. But it has to be an area where we need them, not in an area where they're going to be competing significantly with Americans who want jobs. They do not become citizens. They do not get to vote. And if they want to become citizens, they have to go through exactly the same process that anybody from any place else in the world would have to go through.
Now, we did this interview right after Dr. Carson had done a briefing with the Nye County Commission on federal control of land, so that may have swayed his answer a little bit, but that does seem to be a direction he would have gone in anyway. Yeah, and one of the interesting contrasts we've noticed is we've sat down with so many of these candidates now, with the exception of Donald Trump. Look at the demeanor of the two frontrunners. You have Dr. Carson here, very calm in speaking with us, and then you see, Donald Trump the last time he was here in Las Vegas, really rallying the troops in the crowd against the media. Yeah, even using profanity sometimes when he speaks to some groups. But I've seen Dr. Carson on debates. I've seen him on TV making speeches. I've seen him live making speeches. Now I've seen him in person at the editorial board and in our interview, and he is exactly the same. His demeanor, his presentation, exactly the same at all times. He even said at one point, look, I'm not going to change who I am. I could wave my arms and yell and do all that, but I'm not going to change who I am. So even sitting down in the other conference room, you mentioned you were with him for an hour before, and I was curious about that. Yeah, absolutely. Never raised his voice, never got upset, never said anything crazy. He was just calm, cool, and collected the whole time. There you go. Well, educating our citizens.
I like the goal of that program. Studies have shown that the very best educated people are homeschoolers, followed by private schoolers, followed by charter schools, followed by public schools.
Is Nevada's Education Savings Account program a model for Ben Carson?
We ask him about that, the gaming industry, and the role Nevada's diversity plays in the race. Next.
Stop monthly TV payments. That's right, with Mr. Antenna. Tired of paying for cable or satellite TV? Mr. Antenna is the answer. You get 45 local digital TV channels with the outdoor antenna. No monthly payments, just a one-time installation fee. Stop the circus of TV payments. Join a growing trend of people moving from pay TV. Get rid of the jumble. Call Mr. Antenna today. 608-1313.
This holiday season, give the gift that's hard to wrap, but easy to give. Give a Stihl. Legendary chainsaws, hardworking Stihl blowers, and the full line of quality Stihl outdoor power equipment. Stihl, built in America, sold locally, and the gift that's #1 on everybody's wish list. Visit StihlDealers.com.
So I wasn't a great high school golfer, but I played a very important part on the football team.
Yeah, Dad, what did you do?
Stacy, I can't tell you.
Dad?
Jim Marski has received extra allocation from the factory due to our tremendous sales volume. Jim Marski has no more room to put these extra cars, so we must sell them immediately. Get a new Kia for only $99 per month. Get $7,000 cash back to spend as you please. 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty. Come find out why we are the #1 Kia dealer in Nevada. And remember, if you don't drive here, you can't save here.
The longest-running retailer at the Fashion Show Mall is having a once-in-a-lifetime sale. Berger & Son Fine Jewelers. 34 years in one location, and now we're moving, expanding to a new store over double in size. Save up to 70% off our multi-million-dollar inventory. One-of-a-kind items must be sold. Diamonds, watches, fine jewelry, precious gems, gold, everything must go. Berger & Son at the Fashion Show Mall. Holiday shop today. It's time to save big.
Welcome back to Politics Now.
Welcome back. In part 2 of our interview with Republican presidential candidate Dr. Ben Carson, we asked about Nevada's brand new education savings account program, gambling, and moving our state's caucus up on the nominating calendar.
Here's part 2 of the interview.
The state of Nevada recently passed a program called the Education Savings Account, and this would take a portion of the state money that would go to a public school pupil and follow that pupil to cover costs like books or tutoring or even private school tuition. What do you think of that program, and do you think that idea should be expanded?
I like the goal of that program. You know, studies have shown that the very best educated people are homeschoolers, followed by private schoolers, followed by charter schoolers, followed by public schoolers. Now, that would seem to say if we want our people to be well educated, we should give them choice. And this is particularly the case in a lot of our big inner cities, where schools are abominable and we have very high dropout rates. I think part of the reason the dropout rates are so high is because the kids say, I'm not learning anything here anyway. Why am I wasting my time? So they drop out. That's less likely to occur if they're in the right kind of environment. Also, if we create school choice, it's going to put pressure on the non-performing schools, you know, to straighten themselves out.
In the public system?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you worry that, as some people say, because those public schools are bad, and we offer this school choice as an alternative, that we're giving up on those public schools, and that then there are students who are going to remain who aren't going to take advantage of this program? Shouldn't we be using all the resources that we can marshal to make the public schools perform better and have those expectations?
Yeah, well, that would be very nice, except people have been saying that for 60 years and it hadn't worked. So at some point, you have to say, you know, that didn't work, so let's try another avenue. And that avenue is incentivizing them rather than forcing programs upon them that don't work.
Yeah. And we're at that point, you think?
We're there, absolutely.
And speaking of that, I mean, you see Common Core as something, and the backlash with Common Core. How would you deal with possibly replacing Common Core and having another standard for the schools to teach to try to, in a sense, level the playing field to get the best education out there for all of the students?
Well, I think the reason that homeschoolers and private schoolers and charter schools do so well is because the people are interested in making sure they're well educated. The closer to home the standards are set, it seems like the better the kids do. So I'm not so sure we need to replace Common Core with anything. I think we just need to get rid of it.
Nevada demographically is the more diverse state than of the three early primary states, Iowa, New Hampshire, and Nevada. Nevada is more ethnically diverse. It's more diverse in terms of income and in terms of union membership and all sorts of things like that. Do you think Nevada ought to be higher in the primary calendar because it more represents America than either of the two early states before us, Iowa and New Hampshire?
I think everybody thinks that they ought to be higher. I think that's a natural tendency. But I think the system works quite well. I've been impressed by the level of interest here in Nevada. A lot of people seem to actually know what the issues are. And I think part of that is because of the early status that the state has. So I think that's a good thing. Nevada's number one industry, obviously, is the gaming industry. What do you think of the gaming industry as a business model? There are some people who don't think gambling is a legitimate thing. Are you one of those people? Or what do you think of casinos as businesses? Have I ever gambled? No.
Yeah. You've never gambled?
No. Am I ever likely to gamble? No. Am I going to stop other people from doing what they want to do? No. I'm one of those live and let live people. And, I would leave as much of that control with the states as you possibly can. One of the wonderful things about America, we have 50 experimentation laboratories. And, you can look at how things are going in each one of them. You can say, I love that. I'm going to move there. And you don't have to get permission from anybody. You just go there and you become a resident of that state because you like what they're doing there. And that's one of the beauties of our country.
We also asked about Yucca Mountain. Carson said he wants opponents and proponents to design a study together, then live with the results. He seemed to lean towards a pro-Yucca stance, saying it's safer than many alternatives, but he didn't commit to that position.
That was Carson's second trip here in Nevada. In a week's time, he promised to be in Nevada more. Now, Steve, when you talk about the ground game versus Donald Trump and polling second, is Ben Carson doing a better job trying to make up ground? Can he make up ground and take the lead in Nevada?
Well, he's so different from Donald Trump. He's almost like the anti-Trump in that sense that it's difficult, I think, to gain ground because Trump just chews up the scenery and takes all the oxygen out of the room with his style of campaigning. But yet, we saw Dr. Carson come and do his town halls. He gathered a pretty good crowd, and they seem to be pretty enthusiastic for his candidacy. It's just that Trump is so difficult to knock off that pedestal with because you never know what he'll say. That's right. The thing. You never know what he'll say, as opposed to Dr. Carson, who's pretty calm.
Yeah, and if you see him do well in Nevada, it'll be interesting to see if that affects other states as well going forward. Well, you just heard what Ben Carson had to say a few minutes ago about his stance against recreational marijuana, but how have the other presidential candidates weighed in on our 2016 ballot initiative?
We dig through the archives to show you next.
Don't go in there.
Why would you go in there? What? Wait, it's over?
No, I think it's...
I get it. The sudden cut to black is a metaphor for mortality.
Actually...
We studied this director at film school, very avant-garde. Miss... Oh!
It was just buffering.
Don't let buffering be an unpleasant surprise. Lose DSL and get Cox high-speed internet with speeds up to 33 times faster than basic DSL, as low as $19.99 a month. Ask about a $200 prepaid card.
I mean, directors have done that. Suddenly cut to black in the middle of the action. It's a rarely used technique, but it's been done.
Stream seamlessly with speeds up to 33 times faster than basic DSL, as low as $19.99 per month. Call today. Ask about a $200 prepaid card.
No, seriously, it's a style. Leaving us wanting more?
Yeah. More speed.
Why wait? Get speeds up to 33 times faster than basic DSL for only $19.99 per month. Call today and ask about a $200 prepaid card.
Whoa, Dave! Did you go camping? Camped at the store for Black Friday. Saved hundreds. You? Actually, I got a solid 8 hours.
You snooze, you lose.
Still save thousands.
There's a more civilized way to do Black Friday. Why save hundreds when you can get a check for thousands?
Get cash back for 15% of the MSRP on select Sierra 1500 models in stock the longest. That's $7,700 on this Sierra. See your Southern Nevada GMC dealers.
The hottest name in late night is talking to the biggest names in politics.
I want to give your office the respect it deserves. How much is that? You're one of the leaders of the Republican Party. What is happening?
The Late Show with Stephen Colbert.
I've said a few things about you over the years.
That's some nice things. That's some nice things. Not too many. Where newsmakers make news.
2016 election. Who do you like for 2016?
Only CBS.
Welcome back to Politics Now.
Well, you heard Dr. Ben Carson weigh in earlier in the show, urging Nevadans to vote down a 2016 ballot initiative that would legalize recreational marijuana in our state.
Well, in previous interviews, we asked Democratic presidential frontrunners Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders about that initiative. Here's what they both had to say about that.
I think we've got several states that are in the early stages of doing what Franklin Roosevelt referred to as bold, persistent experimentation. And I do think that states considering this and trying to figure out which way they should go would be well advised to get a little more information about what's happening in those other states. And I'm not saying it would be negative information. It might be more positive in the sense about here's how to do it and here's what we've learned. So unless Nevada feels like it would know exactly what it would do if the referendum passed, I think people should just hold off and figure out what's the best way to do this.
My legislation does not, nor do I think we should, at the federal level, say to 50 states in this country, we've legalized marijuana. We live in an interesting form of government called federalism. And I like that system because you learn from what each states do. Some state does something good, people will steal that idea. Does it bad, you won't go in that direction. So what we have right now in terms of the federal government is you have marijuana now as part of the Controlled Substance Act, a Schedule I drug, right in the same category as heroin, okay? Very few people think, whatever you may think of marijuana, most people don't think marijuana equates to heroin. What I have done in my legislation is taken marijuana completely out of the Controlled Substance Act. So it is no longer a federal crime. It is left to the states. Now you have states like Colorado, Alaska, Oregon, state of Washington, and the District of Columbia have legalized marijuana. That's their choice. Nevada will do it or will not do it. That is the choice of the people in this state. If Nevada does do it, what my legislation will do will make sure that those people in the business can use banking without legal imposition from the federal government.
Well, none of the Republican presidential candidates are openly advocating for legalization, but nobody really has come out against medical marijuana. It's generally accepted by all of the presidential candidates, and that's one of the things that has led the main man behind that ballot initiative, State Senator Dick Sagerblum, to say public sentiment has swung so widely to the camp that it will pass.
But the anti-recreational pot forces are striking back. Republican Assembly Minority Leader, former Minority Leader, I should say, Pat Hickey, sent out a newsletter this week saying, quote, "It is true, and numerous studies show that early marijuana use by adolescents is associated with lower educational attainment. Studies also show that regular pot use by teenagers results in higher high school dropout rates, 28% who do, 14% who don't. Additional downer news for young stoner users. They do worse on college entrance exams and end up with lower IQs among adolescents," end quote. So you can put Hickey firmly in the camp that will be advocating against the recreational marijuana initiative.
Yeah, but this is something on the medical side, at least, that has seen pretty broad support in the state house, up in the legislature at Carson City. On a recent trip to Denver, you're seeing bipartisan support from Dick Sagerblum, but then also Michelle Fiore, Patricia Farley. So it's interesting, at least on that side, if not for different reasons, the support is there. We'll see what happens if it passes in 16.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, big money for Fiorina. We'll tell you about the Nevada invite for Carly Fiorina that may signal big money moving in her direction soon.
I wanted the same plan that my mother had, Senior Dimensions.
I've had Senior Dimension for over 20 years, and I love it.
If you're eligible for Medicare, you need to take a look at the plan that offers you more than original Medicare.
Cost is very important to me, and that's why I choose Senior Dimensions.
Senior Dimensions members pay a $0 monthly premium.
I'm just so happy with my doctors.
Senior Dimensions members pay a $0 copay for primary care doctor visits, and our members pay a $0 copay for specialist visits, and a $0 copay for hospital stays as well.
I wanted a plan that's been here as long as we have.
Senior Dimensions is one of the longest-standing local Medicare Advantage plans in Nevada, celebrating its 30th year of caring for Medicare eligibles right here where you live, and includes emergency coverage nationwide when you travel.
Senior Dimensions covers my medications, and that keeps me moving.
Our plan offers many Tier 1 preferred generic drugs for a $0 copay at most local neighborhood pharmacies.
I like that I have plenty of doctors and specialists to choose from.
Senior Dimensions offers a broad network of local providers, including Southwest Medical Associates, one of the largest and fastest growing multi-specialty groups in Nevada. And our transportation benefit offers you up to 24 one-way rides a year.
Senior Dimensions is everything for me.
Open enrollment is here, and you don't want to miss out on the plan that gives you more than original Medicare. $0 copays for primary care doctor visits, specialist visits, hospital stays, and preventative screenings. And our Fit for Life Club and Silver Sneakers benefit gives you access to gyms and exercise classes at local facilities at no additional cost to you. You have until December 7th to enroll. Don't wait. Call now and find out if Senior Dimensions is right for you.
It's what I want.
And she gets what she wants.
It's what I want. Senior Dimensions.
That's my plan.
This is The Race Now, where we recap the big political stories of the week here in Nevada. A Koch-backed group, Americans for Prosperity, will feature Republican candidate Carly Fiorina at one of their events in Reno. The group focuses on small government legislation. The event will be on December 16th, the day after the Republican debate here in Las Vegas. The latest Nevada polling has Fiorina third behind Trump and Carson. A group called the Committee to Raise the Minimum Wage filed for a ballot initiative this week. They want to gradually raise the minimum wage to $13 in Nevada by 2024 in 75-cent per year increments. It's much lower than the $15 by 2019 legislation proposed by State Senator Tick Sagerblum. Backers still have to gather 55,000 signatures to get it on the 2016 ballot. And Republican candidate John Kasich has hired a Nevada state director. Zachary Moyle is a former state director for Americans for Prosperity as well in the state Republican Party. Maybe too little too late for Kasich. The latest polling had him at 1% in Nevada. A lot of groundwork for him to do. We'll see how long he stays in the race.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to make up that distance.
Well, thank you so much for watching Politics Now.
You can email us at politicsnow@lasvegasnow.com.
We are your election headquarters for the next year. See you next time.